competition, trophies. Well, still stuck to the office.
Race 1 of the weekend at Snetterton for the R&G British Talent Cup saw Evan Belford starting on pole position. Alongside him was Emmanuel Brinton and Julian Correa. Down towards the first corner, Belford didn't get the best start and it left him under attack from Correa and Brinton, who managed to get themselves into first and second place respectively. The run down in towards Wilson was always going to be an exciting affair under braking, and Brinton was able to get himself into the race lead in the early stages. Brinton was able to try and fight back, but lost out initially to Harrison Desoy, who made some good progress through the field as well as Brinton. It was a great tussle at the top as they all fought amongst one another, and especially for the podium place as well, with Harley McCabe involved in the mix as well as Correa, Harrison Desoy and Sullivan Mounsey. On the brakes in towards Agostini's at this point, Correa managed to get himself up the inside of Harley McCabe, as Harrison Desoy got himself ahead of his teammate Correa as well. But then a big high side coming through. Agostini's put him out of contention. Belford recovered to take the win, his third in succession. And then the final podium place was decided on the line between Correa and McCabe by just a thousandth of a second in favour of Julian Correa. Well, welcome along to Snetterton here this morning for the second race of the weekend for the R&G British Talent Cup. You can see 19 degrees air temperature, 21 degrees track temperature. However, inclement weather is coming into play here this morning, because you can see the umbrellas are up. And, well, there are a few spots of rain in the air. It's been declared a wet race, as I understand it, Neil Mackenzie.
Yeah, it has, and the race direction has taken that decision. I was expecting maybe a delayed start to begin with, but they want to get the schedule, they want to get the programme started, so the guys have been advised they now have the opportunity to change to wet tyres. In this class they have slicks or wets. The Dunlop wets will go the distance even in dry conditions for 12 laps, so I guess a lot of the guys, and that is a wet front there in Lucas Brown's bike, so these tyres will work perfectly well, although lap times might be down a little bit for 12 laps. However, at this point in time, the racetrack is still dry. It's pretty much dry and as quick as it's falling. So you could maybe argue that you would get away with slicks, but there's a risk attached to that. The safe bet is wet, front and rear. Well,
what it has done is change the complexion of the race a little bit. We've got 2 warm-up laps now, which has reduced the race distance from 12 down to 10. And here is Rick Stevenson, who didn't have such a bad race yesterday after a challenging weekend at Knockhill just a couple of weeks ago. Finished 6th at the checkered flag. As you can see, lines up at 7th on the grid here for race 2. Does the Lincolnshire lad? He's been over racing in the European Talent Cup over the last couple of weeks for the Vision Track racing team. And here's the man who managed to get himself onto the podium for the first time this season, Julian Correa, the American rider. Really good performance from him, getting the better of Harley McCabe at the line.
Yeah, certainly was fairly frenetic at the front yesterday. It pretty much could have gone anyone's way. Evan Belford was calm in the opening laps, in the early laps, just stayed calm in third, fourth position, let everything get up to speed, let things get settled down, and he saw that opportunity. And I've got to say, it was a championship winning performance. He dug in a championship like this. Everyone's pretty much on equal equipment, so when you've got a standout rider like we had in Evan yesterday, it really is saying something that he's in for a bright future. So he's come through tough times, broke his leg last year. He's come back race, he won at Knockhill, and he really is on form this year. And to do that, extend his lap, his championship lead, leading from front, and also setting fastest laps along the way. So very, very impressive performance.
Yeah, just a whisker under 8 seconds was the advantage he held at the checkered flag. Here is Sullivan Mounsey, who was involved in that podium battle, but it eluded him at the end of the race. He's had a couple of podiums so far this season, including a double at Knockhill last time out, and of course the victory he took in race 1 at Donington earlier on this season. Here is the man who will be hoping for a bit of redemption, losing out on that podium by the smallest of margins, just a thousandth of a second. That's the width of James Whittam's wallet, believe it or not. And he lines up third on the grid on the outside of the front row here for this second race this morning.
Yeah, we mentioned Harrison Desoy there. He'd become part of the Vision Track team last weekend in Portimao, and I gather he's off to Catalonia, to Barcelona, to ride again for the team next weekend. So getting lots of high-end, high-quality racing in between the British Talent Cup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he performs over there, because, of course, the European circuit's very different to what we have over here in Britain. Here is Emmanuel Brinton, a man who has been in the European Talent Cup for many years, actually lives down in Valencia. He's half British, half Ethiopian, and he's one of the top Ethiopian athletes in the world. And you can see him there lining up in the middle of that front row of the grid. Incredibly impressive he was at Knock Hill a couple of weeks ago. First time visiting the circuit. First time for a lot of him visiting these circuits, because he has, as I said, been based over in Spain for such a long time. But would he be able to do enough to stop this man here, Evan Belford? He was just on another planet yesterday.
I really thought with Emmanuel Brinton's pace in practice, new track, he learned the track really quickly. I was watching him progress all the way through practice to his front row grid position, and I really thought he would be able to go with Evan in the race, but Evan was just a league above everyone else yesterday. But they've had a race, they've got a race under their belts. They'll have a look at the data, they'll have a look at the settings from yesterday. Might not mean a lot now we've got a damp track, but these guys improve race by race. But certainly at the moment, Evan Belford is looking very much like the man.
Yeah, seemingly all the riders opting for the wet tyres, playing the safer game, which is all well and good if it stays sort of damp, wettish. But if it does dry out, they're going to chew those wet tyres up like no tomorrow.
They will, but they will be safe. They won't really come apart. They're quite a strong construction, the wet tyre, soft rubber and strong construction. There's a lot of grip out here. It's quite an abrasive, grippy track, so they will generate heat, but they should be okay. This would be the time, maybe for some of the riders further back in the grid, maybe take a punt, maybe take a risk, and they could find themselves charging through. But at the moment, all the championship runners at the front, first 2-3 rows, as far as I can see, have gone with the wet tyres. And normally, this time of the season, that's a safe bet. Go with your competition, and you might not have any advantage, but at least you'll be in the same boat.
Well, the grid is now clearing as we get ready for the reduced races. I said earlier on, 2 warm-up laps, race distance of 10 laps down from 12, owing to the weather conditions. You can see 1 minute to go until we get this formation lap underway. And like you say, opportunity does knock for some of these riders a little bit further back.
It does. I don't wish anyone any risk or any danger, but it would be great for a few of the guys maybe just to take a punt, keep things safe. And if the track does dry up, the rain goes away, the drizzle stops, then anyone on slicks from midfield backwards could find themselves just charging through the field.
Well, you've done a lot of racing in your time, Neil. I'm sure you've probably ridden on a drying track on wet tyres. What difference does it make if you're on slick tyres compared to wet tyres on the wrong type of circuit?
Well, on a drying track, as we've got here on wet tyres, the first few laps are fine because the tyres are strong, you're getting maximum grip. But as time goes on, and if the track is drying out more, the temperature increases, you can see the cuts in the tyre, that means they generate more heat, things start moving around. As I said, the tyres won't fall apart by any means, but they will reduce in grip, and you get a squidgy feeling both in the front and the rear, and you have to adjust your riding and your pace to suit that. What they could do here is not 2 warm-up laps, because that's going to generate too much heat, really, because as we can see, the track is dry. On the other hand, the flip side, if the track is wet or damp and you're on slick tyres, as long as you can get temperature into the tyres and there's no standing water, you pretty much can go at a very decent dry pace. What you have to be careful for is the paint, the red and white paint and the white lines, because that does have less adhesion than the black stuff. So it really is about being careful, sussing out on the opening laps how much grip is out there, track conditions, are there any wet spots, are there any damp patches, are there any puddles? So really, but the 2 warm-up laps, having said that, will give the guys a great indication and a great insight into what they're looking at on the first few laps.
Yeah, it's going to be a step into the unknown for the riders. You can see the white flag with the red cross waving. That does mean that there is rain in that particular part of the circuit. And you can see coming down towards Agostini's, looks a little bit greasy going into there, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Emmanuel Brinton there, who's one of the taller, more lanky riders, actually works in his favour, because you see he can stretch his knee out, he can get his knee down.
Look at that.
He can hang off with the other guys that are shorter and smaller stature. They find it more difficult to lean over and get the knee down, but he's already stretching himself to the max so that he can get his knee down, and then that gives him an indication of lean angle and where he is with the bike. Some of them might have put on some wet knee sliders, which are a bit thicker as well. That allows them to get their knee down, and it gives them that third wheel, if you like, and a bit of safety. Yeah,
you can see a few riders have opted for the clear visors as well. This is just coming on towards the Bentley Straight. Definitely a bit of rain and possibly some standing water to follow, as well as they head down in towards the Brundle's corner. This is, of course, at the end of the back straight. This is going to be such an unknown for all of these riders. The track is going to be evolving lap after lap, corner after corner, effectively, and it depends, of course, on which way the weather goes. If the rain continues to fall and the track conditions get worse, that will come into favour for the wet tyre shod riders. But if it does begin to improve, that will favour some riders who may have opted for slick tyres. And, of course, what could be the worst case scenario for them is if it sort of dries out a little bit and then gets a little bit wetter later on, because you might have overheated the tyres and used up the best of the rubber.
It's a relatively short race. I think they'll be okay, but I think the safe choice is wet tyres. And these guys can commit in the opening laps now. The tyres are gripped, they've got the right tyres on, they will be grippy, there's enough temperature out there, the track's semi-dry everywhere.
Well, the riders making their way then across the timing line, ready to go. Race 2 then about to begin for the R&G British Talent Cup here at Snetterton. Wet conditions throwing a big unknown into the mix. Riders going on to wet tyres at the start of this one, despite it being a relatively dry circuit. Let's have a look at the championship standings, shall we, after 7 races. It was Evan Belford who took the spoils in race 1 here yesterday. 37 points. His advantage now sits over Emmanuel Brinton in the championship. You can see Sullivan Mounty and Harley McCabe there, tied on 63 points adrift of the championship lead for 3rd place. Julian Correa with his 3rd place finish as well, doing himself absolutely no harm. Harrison Desoy was on the deck yesterday after a crash coming down here into Agostini's, so he will be hoping for a finish here this morning. And let's see what is going to happen as we venture into the unknown. Here is the grid then for race 2 of the R&G British Talent Cup at Snetterton. It's Evan Belford who lines up on pole position ahead of Emmanuel Brinton and Harley McCabe. Row 2, Sullivan Mounty, Harrison Desoy and Julian Correa. Row 3 is Rhys Stevenson, Philip Sorowiak and then Lucas Brown. Just inside the top 10 is Ben Jalif. We're ahead of Ryan Frost and then Josh Bannister, who was another DNF yesterday. Row 5 is Scott McPhee, Ronnie Harris and then Alfie Davidson. Row 6, Ollie Walker, Alexander Rowan and then Charlie Huntingford, the local lad, ahead of row 7's Clayton Edmonds, Harrison Mackay and then the number 28 of Charlie Barnes. Row 8 is Bowles, Willis and then Milpenko. Row 9 is Goodman, Banish and then Jones, and one of the riders has gone down on the formation lap. That's Charlie Huntingford. So that's a big shame for him, and he has ended up on the deck. Hopefully he's up and going to be up and okay following that one, but that's going to be his race over before it has begun. And I suppose that is always the risk when you're stepping into the unknown with the track conditions being as they are. Riders are learning the circuit corner by corner, lap after lap, and unfortunately for Charlie Huntingford, it's come to bite him in the backside.
Ooh, not good. Yeah, that could be a delayed start there while we attend to the fallen rider. He's conscious and he's moving, maybe winded, I'm saying optimistically. Yeah,
let's have a look and see. It looks like he's getting to his feet now, so just probably a little bit winded with that. Let's have another look and see if we can piece together exactly what happened. So you can see the rain's definitely coming down here out of this corner. And
yeah, early on.
High-sided, didn't he?
High-side, maybe just got a little bit too confident, and the track, as we said, the rain is still drizzling and becoming greasy. You can see it now falling down there. That is quite heavy rain, and definitely the right choice is wet tyres. And
Charlie Huntingford, he's so disappointed with that, and he'll be ruining what might have been as the riders make their way then on to the grid, ready to go. So 10 laps of action ready to come for race 2 at a wet Snetterton. A shower just before the start of this one, declaring in a wet race. And now the rain is coming down in an increasing intensity. Most of the riders going for the wet combat of tyres, seeming to be the right call. And it's Evan Belford on pole position with Emmanuel Brinton and then Harley McCabe on the outside of the front row. Row 2 is Sullivan Mounty, Harrison Desoy, and then the podium finisher from yesterday, the American Julian Correa. Green flag is waved at the back, ready to go for 10 laps of action then here. Eyes on the red lights. Lights out and we're underway. Good start from Belford from pole position. Great from Sullivan Mounty from the second row of the grid as the riders drag down in towards the first corner. Who is going to be bravest on the brakes into these unknown conditions? Well, it's Belford with the wider sweeping line ahead of Emmanuel Brinton. Harley McCabe there going side by side, and down and out of the race is Emmanuel Brinton at the first corner. So drama for the man from second place, and he is down and out before the race has really begun.
You know, tracks are at their most slippery when they're not fully dry or fully wet. It's greasy, as we saw in the warm-up lap, and also there Brinton going down at turn 1, didn't do anything wrong there. When conditions are in between, it's not quite perfect for slick tyres, not quite perfect for wet tyres, really greasy when the track's going from dry to wet, especially as we had no rain. We've had extremely hot conditions. The track will be greasy, and the same when the track's fully wet and going back to dry. that's when it becomes greasy as well. So these guys have to be super careful in these opening laps.
Ryan Frost with an absolutely brilliant start on board the number 24. He's now up the inside of Rhys Stevenson into third place. So he's loving these changeable conditions at the moment. You can see how tentatively the riders are taking it through these corners as they just try and feel the grip, feel the bike underneath them. And, well, opportunity knocks for a few a bit further down and those who want to push the limits a bit more. But the thing is, you're not going to get much of a warning sign here.
Yeah, opportunity does not, but they have to be so careful and they have to stay off these white lines that make me so nervous. I'm nervous for all these lads because testosterone-filled teenagers, many of them, just want to get a result. And like you say, some of them will see this as an opportunity. It's a great leveler when conditions are like that. And some of the riders just have some extra skills that they bring into play. But Evan Belford's demonstrating that he's fast whatever the conditions are this weekend.
Yeah, he's pulled out a comfortable advantage at the beginning of this first lap. He's only halfway around it, and look at that.
And Evan's advantage for me is too big. He needs to take a little bit of look behind, get his eye on the pit board, just see, because he's you can see how much faster he is, and he really doesn't have to push hard, and especially in these open laps, let things settle down a little bit.
There's Rhys Stevenson, of course, returning from a challenging weekend at Knockhill just a couple of weeks ago. And yesterday, he was able to get himself up into 6th place at the checkered flag, but he was on the deck at Knockhill, ended up having a bit of a wrist injury, and unfortunately, it's an early end to the race for Harrison Desoy. A double DNF here at Snetterton. Looks like it's gone down at Corham, seemingly, and that's such a shame.
Acres have run off there, so yeah, and he's mad. It's just sinking in what's actually happened this weekend. The double DNF, and very much a race-winning contender, championship contender. So he just has to regroup, head to Barcelona, and enjoy his weekend next weekend with Vision Track and the ETC.
Yeah, shame for Harrison Desoy. Let's hope he can, as you say, regroup and turn his confidence around. Lucas Brown going up the inside here of Julian Correa. This is in the battle for second as Evan Belford continues off in his ascension of trying to end up in another postcode compared to everybody else. Into the left-hander of Palmer's then. This is on the run and on the short straight down in towards Agostini's. It's a bit of a bumpy circuit here at Snetterton, especially on the braking zone. Do you think that will affect the riders in these conditions a little bit?
Yeah, they have to be careful in all areas of the track because the slippery conditions throw up different elements of skill, and you need to have different elements of caution. Evan Belford, 2.5 seconds on that opening lap. I've got to say he's with this City Lifting Saxo Beat outfit, and they don't know how to set a bike up. They've been in this championship and worked in the junior classes for so many years. Evan Belford has been given a bike there to demonstrate his great skills, and he's doing a great job. And there might have been the more experienced teams would have made a few suspension adjustments just for these conditions, maybe just soften the suspension a little bit just to let it move a little bit, which helps generate more heat in the tyres. And riding is all seat of the pants, so if these guys are getting a good feeling from the bike, as Belford appears to be, then all the better.
Well, we all thought that the conditions were going to throw a few variables into the mix, including some riders that perhaps may not have been as far up the order. Alexander Rowan having a really good ride so far on board his machine, because he was down in 17th on the grid, now up into 7th place. Likewise, Clayton Edmonds making some good ground. He's up a few places. Sislav Pelpenko also making good progress here in this one. So, again, a few riders just enjoying these conditions a little bit more. As you said, really good leveller.
Yeah, and I'm so much more relaxed when they've got a couple of laps under their belt. They've sussed out the conditions. They're getting a feel for things. They're feeling that the bike's working. They've sussed out where the grip is and where the grip isn't on the racetrack. So things settling down a little bit. Guys keeping things safe, trying to stay off the paint as well, which is really important.
This is Alexander Rowan then on board the number 65 with Alfie Davidson close behind. Davidson was 15th on the grid. He's now 7th place, 7 places just into 8th at the moment in the wheel tracks of Rowan. Down in towards the first corner of Bridges, has a half look to the inside there, but no room at the end for him for now as Evan Belford continues on building his advantage and stretching it to up to 3.5 seconds with the fastest lap in this race. That was a 21.7. It's about half a second or so quicker than Brown and Correa further behind. Yeah,
it's taking a second to lap out the opposition at this point, but really is in such a good place on the crest of a wave. Really confident, happy with his bike, happy with his riding, and yeah, he's just making progress week by week. But the podium battle going on behind is very much still wide open all the way down. Sort of Brown, Correa, Frost, Stevenson, Harley McCabe in 6.
Oh, another rider has unfortunately hit the deck. That's Ewan Jones, who's gone down the road. That's a shame for the number 11. That's down at Rich's as well. Fast place to crash,
same,
isn't it?
Yeah, Richie's same corner as Brinton.
Disappointment for him. Thankfully, he's up and okay. This is the battle for the podium with Julian Correa, who's in third place. Behind him is Ryan Frost. Reece Stevenson very close for company as well as they make their way on towards the back straights. And you wonder when he's going to be able to try and find his way past. Of course, the slipstream effect is very prominent on these Honda 250 machines, and maybe an opportunity could present itself at the end of the back straight here for Ryan Frost. On Correa, he pulls alongside. Is he going to be able to go later on the brakes into that left-hander? Well, he has a half look, but Correa, with that wider sweeping line, is able to hold firm in third for now.
He did, and he did a nice technique turning in there. It's an ultra-fast corner, and you brake as late as you can in dry conditions and then flick the bike onto its side. But he did a lot of upright braking there. He moved in a little bit, stood the bike up, used the flat part of the tyre for maximum grip, for maximum contact, and did his braking very sensible.
So then, let's see whether he may be able to invent something into Murray's here. I understand that the rain has just moved away for the time being, so
good.
This is, well, yeah, exactly, good for the riders. Now they've got a bit of heat into their tyres, and three of them battling for this podium as they come across the timeline. We're already at lap 4 out of 10 in this reduced race distance, as Ryan Frost sits in the wheel tracks of Julian Correa once more.
Yeah, good. The rain's gone away, make things safer with the tyres start moving around, so it adds another element of watching out for your riding, another element of skills when the tyres are getting a little bit chewy.
What do you think the riders are going to be thinking about at this particular point? If you're Ryan Frost in fourth place at the moment, he's having as good a ride as he's had all season.
Well, I think, yeah, they'll be thinking right now, same as me, good, the rain's going off because they won't be getting any spots on the visor anymore. They know the track will dry up, so things will get a bit safer. They still have to be careful using the paint because in this class, using every inch of the track is really important. But the tarmac will dry up. The shiny paint has got less adhesion. It is grippy paint, but it still holds the water, stays moist for a little bit longer, so you have to be careful with that. But yeah, they will be pleased that the rain goes off, but then a new element, as I said, the tyres will start moving around because the tyres are designed for standing water ultimately. They will hold together, but we shall see. You
can see how stiff these bikes are as well, just how much they're chattering under braking here as well. Of course, these are prototype bikes. They're not road-going machines in any way, shape or form, and they're designed purely for racing. Very stiff chassis comparative to a road-going bike, for example.
They are, and they're based on the RS125 two-stroke Honda. The chassis has changed not a lot over the years, so they've just basically built inserted the 250cc single-cylinder engine, which makes around 40 brake horsepower, ultra reliable, makes this racing cheap. They know where they are with costs all year, and yeah, the chassis are very stiff. It's great because these riders are learning race bike skills early in their career, and that involves pushing the front hard, getting maximum grip from the rear, lots of corner speed, so it's a proper junior race bike class, and great for these guys.
Do you think
their career moves forward?
Do you think any of the teams would have been likely to make some adjustments to the likes of suspension and stuff like that for the conditions on the grid?
The more experienced teams that have fielded riders in these conditions before definitely will know the rider's weight, the rider's riding style, exactly what they want to do. They might take a little bit of preload, which is spring tension off the front. They might take a bit of preload off the rear just to make things slightly more subtle and generate a little bit more heat. But as conditions change, then these settings become less important or are less effective.
Son of a Mountie looking like he's not particularly gelling with these conditions down in 10th place. It's one of the slower rides that we've seen from him so far this season. I don't mean that to discredit him in any way, shape or form, but he's just not seemingly gelling, whether it's with the bike, with the tyres, with the conditions or something like that, because he's normally at the sharp end.
One thing we know about Sullivan Mountie is a proper racer and very much a podium contender when everything's right. And that might not be down to his ride. If he's not feeling it with the bike, the settings are not quite right, if they haven't changed anything or they've changed something too much, it might just be that he's not feeling the grip, And in situations like that, the best thing is to finish. You've got to ride to the limits of his bike, score some points. Some major championship contenders are out of the race, and anything can happen. There's a long way to go in this championship.
Man on the move could be Alexander Rowan. He was quickest last time around, and he's involved in a really good battle for the top 5 positions. A little bit further back, you can see this is going on here. This is Clayton Evans we're looking at on board the number 64. Then you've got the 88 of Sislav Pilpenko in the mix there as well. Ollie Walker just at the sharp end of it as they filter their way through the middle sector. So nose to tail racing wherever you look at on the circuit. Evan Belford's gap though was up to 3.5 seconds just a lap or so ago, came down to 2.5 over the timing line, and at the latest sector it's come down again by another few tenths of a second.
Just noticed that he has got a purple sector in the last sector, so he has responded, but he'll be watching his pit board. But that's a fair old chunk that Brown has taken out of him, and quite a few laps still to go. 5th lap out of 10 at the moment.
Harley McCabe having a look there on Alexander Rowan. Rowan in turn not far away from Reece Stevenson. This is in the battle for 5th in this one. Stevenson not looking like he's that comfortable with the conditions. Still looks okay, but compared to Alexander Rowan's pace last time around, Rowan was about half a second or so quicker, and you can see there the progress that he's made in this one. 17th on the grid, up into 7th. We're at half race distance here now, and you can see the slipstream coming into effect here for Harley McCabe. This is how he lost out on that podium place yesterday at the checkered flag with Julian Correa. Down towards the first corner, uses the slipstream to great effect, pulls over the front of Alexander Rowan and moves himself up into 6th place as he comes in towards the first corner.
Evan Belford's gap remains the same, 2.6 seconds. Having said that, Correa's fastest lap on this lap, 2:16.3, compares to Evan Belford's lap on that lap, 2:16.8. So Evan Belford just doing a good controlling job at the front.
Still no signs of the rain returning, so you can see the live point standings on your screen at the moment. Evan Belford, well, what a result that would prove to be for him. Just looking at the standings coming into this round, it's, well, it was a little bit closer than that because it was 37 points. It's now possibly, if the checkered flag fell, up to 62, which is, well, I mean, that's an amazing advantage at this stage of the season.
You can have a weekend off. Save some tyres and fuel.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he will, but
highly unlikely.
Yeah, he certainly could do, given the pace. I mean, to be fair, he's just looking so calm and so confident out there on track, whatever conditions you throw at him at this point. This battle for the podium places with Julian Correa and Ryan Frost still rages on. 3rd place is up for grabs at the moment. It's Julian Correa who's occupying it. Just up the road there is Lucas Brown, and Brown having one of his best rides of the season so far on board the number 29. He's had a podium finish this season, which was at Donington Park. It was a 3rd place finish though in the first race there. He hasn't finished as high as 2nd in the British Talent Cup so far in 2023. So that would be a very welcome and confidence boosting result.
Great confidence boosting there, and sure, things are different, conditions are different, wet tyres on a dry track, but if that brings you a result, then you go home happy, you leave the racetrack happy, it boosts your confidence, great psychological boost. Shout out to Scott McPhee, you wee Scotsman there in 9th position, doing a great job. He's on a great weekend. Yeah, nicely done from Scott McPhee. He had a good pace actually last time out at Knock Hill, as to be expected, being his home circuit. You can see this is a battle that's going on for 11th place here as well. Ollie Walker just at the helm of it, followed by Sislav Pilpenko and Filip Saroviak as they come through into Coram. It was close in the middle sectors, just begins to peter out as they head through the final corner. Ollie Walker just at the front of this one. It's only his 2nd weekend with the MLAV Vision Track Academy team. Stepped over from the SP125 outfit that he was racing with beforehand into the Vision Track team, and seems to have adapted pretty well to the outfit. Seems to be struggling a little bit though this weekend in Snetterton. Saroviak there, loving his helm position. Got it really high up in his head, so he's got great forward vision, the number 75. Yeah, huge visor he's got on that one as well. Scott McPhee, you were just singing his praises there, Neil. He's done the fastest lap, 2:14.3. Just to give you an idea, that's about a second faster than Lucas Brown in 2nd place. Yeah, and he's got riders not that far in front, so a few laps, yes, to grab a few more places. So he's, could easily have his his best result of his season here at Snetterton.
There he is on the blue and white bike, just in the back of your shot. In front of him is Alfie Davidson. You've got Reece Stevenson in the mix there as well, Harley McCabe, Alexander Rowan. So possible opportunity knocking here for Scott McPhee. Will he be able to get himself up the sharp end of the field and possibly on for a top 5 finish, which would be amazing for the Scotsman.
John McPhee, not too shabby in wet conditions as well. I think his first race win was in wet conditions.
At Brno, wasn't it?
Brno,
2016.
Yeah. Czech Republic.
Yeah, well, let's see whether it's going to be... it's their cousins, aren't they?
Cousins, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
His nephew, and John McPhee was not that flipping old.
I was going to say if it was going to be like uncle or like nephew, but that doesn't work for cousins,
I think John
unfortunately.
McPhee's only still about 19 anyway. He certainly looks about 19.
Man who never ages, does he? So through in towards Coram they go. That's Harley McCabe in the blue and green machine. Alexander Rowan having a really good run of things, and likewise Alfie Davidson as well, as they run nose to tail, then head across the timing line. Let's see whether Reece Stevenson is going to be able to use the slipstream, and likewise Alfie Davidson as well. Rowan there, maybe he's just got a bit too short on his gearing, and that might leave him under attack here from Stevenson. Down in towards the first corner, has a half look there, might leave him in turn under threat from Davidson here as well. It's a pass or be pass situation, isn't it?
Certainly. I'll tell you what, that gap's coming down. Exactly 2 seconds now between Belford and Brown, and fast laps coming behind. Evan Belford's had 2 lonely races here. I'm sure he's concentrating, I'm sure he's controlling things. But yeah, your mind tends to wander sometimes when you're out in front. I'm sure he's got a plan and he's going to be perfectly okay, but the guys behind certainly still charging. Yeah, this is going to be a really exciting end to this race in the battle for 5th position. It's 2 seconds the gap between Belford and Brown, actually now down to 1.5 seconds. Last time around, Brown was a second quicker than the race leader, and he'll be closing up onto the back of him. That'll be a huge carrot dangled in front of Lucas Brown, won't it? Could be on for his possible challenge for the first win of the season. That's right, you can see him, and that's a great target. It really focuses you. You can see it, especially if you're closing in. There'll be reference points all over around the track where he sees that he's making progress, getting closer.
Davidson there with a demon move on the brakes into Oggy. He's managed to get that done absolutely lovely. So he's got good confidence in the front end of his Honda. Alexander Rowan with his good pace initially, really sort of old school looking leathers on the back of his bike as well.
That camera shot looks less than 2 seconds.
It is, yeah. It's definitely closing down, isn't it? Let's have a look. There's Evan Belford. There's Lucas Brown, and he's bringing Julian Correa with him as well. So we could be going from a 2 to 3-way possible scrap here in the last couple of laps.
Now, fine if Evan Belford is controlling this and he's totally confident. If he's not, if he's giving it his all, riding at 100%, and these guys are making progress, closing the gap, and he sees that on his pit board, then that induces its own little bit of pressure as well.
Let's have another look at the lap times when they come across the timing line. They're just going into Murray's and going to break the beam once again to start the penultimate lap here of the second race for the R&G British Talent Cup. There is Evan Belford, your race 1 winner, and the man who is on top form in the championship. Lucas Brown and Julian Correa very close behind, 1.5 seconds the gap now sits. The thing that Lucas Brown doesn't need is he doesn't need Julian Correa sticking a front wheel up his inside, because that will thwart his challenge.
Gap has been coming down 0.5 second a lap. In theory, there's not enough time, but that's not to say that Brown won't keep pushing.
All it takes is one mistake, though, doesn't it, from Belford?
One little mistake.
Yeah, just has, a little wobble on the front end or the rear or something like that, runs it a bit too hot, and that could be the opportunity that he needs. There's Alexander Rowan and Alfie Davidson following Reece Stevenson and going past Reece Stevenson in towards Wilson Bend. So 2 places lost there for the Lincolnshire lad in the space of a corner. Scott McPhee keeping a watching brief on the proceedings here too.
Yeah, very much so. He's got an armchair seat watching the action. They might just be perfectly placed to pick up the pieces.
Let's see whether Reece Stevenson can retaliate on Davidson down in towards the Wilson court, in towards Agostini's, into the left-handed hairpin. He can, but really good mid-corner speed there from Alfie Davidson as well.
Evan Belford has responded. He's set his personal best first sector, so he's well aware of what's going on behind him and able to react.
Yeah, it just seems to be controlling the pace a little bit there for him. This is where Davidson was so good on the brakes last time around. He made a damn dare move on Alexander Rowan just a lap or so ago. No way through for him at the moment. Bit of wide there for Scott McPhee in the background as well.
Be trying then.
Yeah, he's definitely pushing on here, isn't he? Just having a look at the lap times here between these riders, and McPhee was the quickest last time around by about 0.3 of a second or so. He's right on the back here, and here is the slipstream then as they come down the Bentley straight. Can McPhee challenge? Can Stevenson challenge as well, he can. So McPhee now up ahead of Alfie Davidson. Next target, Rhys Stevenson.
Yeah, contrasting lines coming down the back straight. You see Harley McCabe totally over to the right-hand side of the circuit. No chance of the slipstream, so you may as well just head down the shortest possible distance to the next corner. The other guys on the left-hand side of the track, some trying to be defensive, others tucked in behind trying to get that important slipstream.
Well, the thing is, for Scott McPhee, is if Rowan and Stevenson start duffing one another up, that could...
It's perfectly placed.
Exactly, yeah. I was just going to say, it could give him the right opportunity here as well.
Harley and McCabe not that far away. These guys can pull each other alone at this point.
Final lap then, so just over 4.7 kilometres left of racing here. We're going to go 3 abreast, down in towards the first corner. Scott McPhee on the inside, Rhys Stevenson in the middle. They managed to filter through the corner in the same way that they entered. That was incredibly close into Rich's. It's so fast into there.
It certainly is. Scott McPhee looking brave. He's really inspired here. He's thinking, yeah, I can pass him. That's maybe not the place. It was a case of not now, Kato, at that point.
Into the left hand of Palmer we go then. So Scott McPhee on the blue and white machine chasing down a top 5 finish, as well as Alfie Davidson, who looks like he's just not got as much pace to try and respond. But Harley McCabe's pace has also dropped off towards closing stages. Could be 4th place here as McPhee goes for the inside line there on Stevenson. No room for him to make his way past Agostini's.
Inside lunge. Maybe should have waited. It would have been good to see wait, just set things up. But he's going to be hopefully in a good position as head along the back straight.
He's left him under attack here from Davidson, and Davidson's quick into Oggies. He goes up his inside, and that could thwart McPhee's charge here as they come through onto the back straight for the last time.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened.
Such a shame there for Scott McPhee, but still a scintillating battle for 5th place. Evan Belford controlling things out in front ahead of Lucas Brown, who was quickest overall last time around by a couple of tenths of a second. Further back, though, this is the battle now for 5th, now even 4th place, because Harley McCabe has got a lot of pressure behind in the form of Alexander Rowan and Rhys Stevenson. There's a couple of corners now remaining as we head in towards this final sector, and it's anybody's guess as to who is going to be taking this 4th place finish. I think Rowan is just a bridge too far for him to try and challenge at the moment.
Yeah, only really one more passing opportunity, and I don't think anyone's close enough. Meanwhile,
Evan Belford makes it 2 wins from 2 races here at Snetterton. What a dominant performance from the number 52 ahead of Lucas Brown with his best finish of the season. It's not over further down though. This is Harley McCabe versus Rowan versus Stevenson. It's a drag to the line for 4th place then. Harley McCabe, for 5th place rather I should say, and Harley McCabe is just going to get the better of him, and then Rowan finishes ahead of Rhys Stevenson by just 0.003 of a second. Scott McPhee finishes in 8th place to get his best result of 2023. Alfie Davidson likewise in the top 10 as well. But what a ride from this man here. Evan Belford comes and wheelies his way down the back straight. Superb performance from the championship leader, extending that advantage now to over 60 points.
Textbook, Tom, flag to flag.
Exactly what he wanted to do. It's not over further down outside the points paying positions here as well, and that is in the battle actually for the final points position. It was Sislav Pilpenko who just managed to get it ahead of Charlie Barnes and Ronnie Harris, who were very close to one another at the checkered flag. And there is Evan Belford, 2 wins from 2 races at the top. What a superb ride from him, and likewise Lucas Brown as well. His best result of the season. He had 1 podium finish earlier on this year at Donington Park. That was a 3rd place. He now gets his best result with a 2nd place.
Smart move there, got the wet knee sliders on, so straight away he can get his knee down, gauge where he is, and it's a little thing, but it sometimes comes down to experience. They've got the wet knee sliders in the toolbox just in case the rain comes. Ryan Saxby, we saw him on camera there standing on the pit wall, the mastermind behind this team. So many wins in the junior classes, and great to see him doing a wonderful job. And Evan Belford dominated this weekend. No lucky wins there, pure domination, great bike, great skills.
Julian Correa, like London buses, aren't they? You wait for 1 podium to come along and 2 come along at once.
And what a mid-season advantage, 2 races in hand.
Yeah, for Evan Belford at the top of the standings. Amazing performance from him. This is George Bowes, who on the Microlights Crestwell Racing bike is the last of the classified finishers as he comes across the line in 23rd place. quite a way adrift of the rest of the field. So,
well, nice little wave there. He obviously enjoyed it.
good experience for him nonetheless, isn't it?
Good lad.
Let's have a look then, shall we, at the final results from race 2 of the R&G British Talent Cup. It's Evan Belford who takes his second win in succession at Snetterton, ahead of Lucas Brown and Julian Correa, back again on the podium for the second time this weekend. Ryan Frost ahead of Harley McCabe for 5th place. It was a great battle going right down to the checkered flag. Alexander Rowan and Reece Stevenson separated by just the smallest of margins there for that 6th place finish. Scott McPhee getting his best result of 2023 with 8th position, ahead of Alfie Davidson and Sullivan Mounsey. Then it's Philip Sorowiak, Ollie Walker just outside of the top 10, Clayton Edmonds, Sistislav Pilpenko and Charlie Barnes being the last of the classified points finishers here this morning for race 2 at Snetterton. And the championship standings then after 8 races this year, 62 points for Evan Belford. I tell you what, you couldn't ask for much more than that. Exactly what he needed to do this weekend was extend his championship advantage, and a double victory has done him no harm at all, especially with that DNF for Emmanuel Brinton after crashing out at the first corner. Julian Correa now very much within touching distance of Emmanuel Brinton in 2nd place, following his 2 podium finishes as well. Harley McCabe not too far adrift there either, just a few points off the back of the American rider. A little bit further down, Scott McPhee, a handful of points finishes, likewise Alfie Davidson as well, and Reece Stevenson getting a few good points on the board with their top 10 finishes. Well, what a ride from everybody here. Challenging conditions, can't be underestimated. A lot of wet weather coming into play at the start of this one, and there was only ever going to be one person who took the checkered flag first. We didn't know who it would be, but Evan Belford, why would we ever have doubted him? Let's go down to chat to our winner with Shaky in Parc Ferme.
Evan Belford, the Snetterton double, you must be absolutely over the moon with that.
Yeah, I'm chuffed with these 2 wins this weekend. It's more points towards the championship and more experience for me. I got a good feeling on the sighting laps, and I just knew I could push from there. The track was getting better and better every lap in the race, so I kept going quicker and quicker, and I'm so happy with this win.
How were the conditions in the beginning? Obviously on the wet tyres, it wasn't super wet, was it, the track? So it must have been a little bit of movement, was it difficult to get a feel for?
No, not really. I got the feel on the warm-up laps, but the race was perfect. It went just how I wanted to, just controlling my lead at the front. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Job well done. On onwards and upwards to Brands Hatch.
Thank you.
Evan Belford then with yet another win this season. That makes it 4 wins of 2023 for Evan Belford, and with a 62-point advantage in the championship, he will be absolutely over the moon. He can afford to take a weekend off, put his feet up. I'm sure he won't, but nonetheless, just goes to show quite how incredible his performance has been. As we wait for the riders to make their way to the podium here at Snetterton. Thankfully, the rain seems to have moved away somewhat. It's still pretty sticky and still pretty warm and pretty cloudy, but nonetheless, doesn't look like we're going to have a threat of rain for the foreseeable future, which is great for the remaining races, which will be along the way here at Snetterton for the rest of today. There's Julian Correa. Great ride from the American on the microlight Cresswell Racing machine after taking his 2nd podium in as many races. He'll be delighted with that because it's been a challenging 2023 for him so far. He's been there and thereabouts with his pace, but trying to break that podium duck is no mean feat, and he will, I'm sure, have a lot of confidence going into the remaining rounds of the 2023 season. And likewise, Lucas Brown as well. His 2nd podium of 2023. So good result there for the number 29. And there is Evan Belford. A big wry smile and no surprise there at all because, well, absolutely dominant weekend here at Snetterton. After starting on pole position, taking the fastest lap, and then the checkered flag. The perfect Sunday for him. As the riders make their way on to the podium then, Julian Correa with his 2nd, 3rd place finish of the weekend. Lucas Brown with his 2nd podium of the season. And Then here comes Evan Belford. On to the top step once again. What is everybody else going to have to do? They're going to be asking themselves to try and thwart his championship challenge in 2023. 62 points is the advantage that Belford holds going into the remainder of the season. Now time for the trophies to be presented for our top 3 finishers, and of course for the RS Racing team as well, the winning outfit. A kiss of the trophy there for Belford as he raises it aloft in front of the crowd here in Norfolk. Superb result in the second race of the R&G British Talent Cup. The show continues later on this season. Well, let's have a look then, shall we, at highlights from the second race of the weekend for the R&G British Talent Cup. It's Evan Belford who started on pole position. The wet conditions delaying the start. It was always going to be a step into the unknown. A few riders taking a few risks in the opening stages, including Emmanuel Brinton, who started in second and went as far as the first corner before ending up on the deck on his side. No points on the board for him, thwarting his championship challenge. Harrison DeSoy also making it 2 DNFs in a row as Evan Belford cleared off out in front, building up a comfortable advantage in the early stages of the race. It became a great battle though for the final podium places with Julian Correa versus Ryan Frost, and then we saw a fantastic ride from Alfie Davidson and Alexander Rowan, their best of the season. They were jostling for 5th place with Rhys Stevenson. It was Evan Belford who came across the line to take his second win in as many races. Harley McCabe taking 4th place, then 5th place as Evan Belford made it his second win in succession here at Snetterton. What a delightful way for him to extend his advantage in the championship.